I made $37 in an hour through crypto arbitrage. I bought a token on Gate and shorted it on MEXC, while others were scrolling through memes, trading something or investing. I had already taken my profit and closed the deal. How is this done? Let's go. I'll explain now. Before we break down the trade, you need to understand how to find these kinds of arbitrage opportunities between spot and futures. By the way, we have videos on our channel about spot and futures arbitrage, so make sure to check those out too. We'll need a tool called the Arbitrage Scanner. Where can you find it? The link is in the description of our profile. Go to YouTube and click on More. Here you'll find a link to the Arbitrage Scanner, as well as links to our Telegram channel and the exchange we use. So go ahead and use the Arbitrage Scanner. It's one of the best tools for crypto arbitrage. Why is that? Let's go, I'll explain now. First of all, to find such spot plus futures arbitrage opportunities, we go to the Arbitrage Products Arbitrage Perpetuals tab, and here we see this kind of screener. Here we can set it up however we want, our deposit amount, the profit we want, different exchanges where we want to buy and sell. And all of this can be configured here in detail. And at the bottom, it shows us the trades. It shows us the exchanges where we buy here. Buy exchange is the exchange where we buy, and sell exchange is where we short. All of this is displayed for us, and it also shows the profit you will earn, like 1.5%, 2.5%, 2.8%. All of this is already displayed and calculated for you. You don't need to calculate anything manually because everything is already here. That's why Arbitrage Scanner is a must-have tool for anyone involved in crypto arbitrage. Now let's move on to analyzing a trade. I'll explain using the example of the DEVVE token since I bought and shorted it. So what did I do? I went to Gate since the price there was lower, so I bought on Gate at the price of 0.663. And at the same time on MEXC the price was higher on the futures market. And as we know, the futures price tends to move toward the spot price. And on MEXC the price was 0.682, meaning the price was higher there and it was moving toward the spot price. So I opened the short on MEXC. At the same time I bought on Gate and simultaneously opened the short on MEXC. So in total our spread was almost 3%, or more precisely 2.87. After literally an hour, I already saw profit and started closing the position. Now I'll show you how I started closing the position. I began gradually selling the token on Gate and buying the token on MEXC because I had opened the short, and accordingly to close the short, you need to buy. That's why I was also closing the short gradually, 100 DEVVE tokens at a time, because there was little liquidity. And as you can see, I was selling 100 tokens at a time, watching the order book. So we look at the top of the order book. Since we're closing a short, we're buying, and we need to look at the sell side of the order book, which is at the top in red. I was gradually selling 100 DEVVE tokens at a time into the order book at the price of 0.649, thereby taking profit. And I was also gradually closing my position on Gate. That is, we need to close both Gate and MEXC at the same time. If you encounter a situation like mine because there were some nuances, I couldn't close the position all at once and had to close it gradually with limit orders. You should do exactly the same. That is, if you hit market order, you saw that the order book on MEXC is pretty empty. There are orders for $100 each, and that's very little. And I have a position of $2,000, so I need to close it somehow, which means I have to gradually close the position with limit orders. If I just sell at market price, all the limit orders will be filled and I'll end up selling at an unfavorable price. The spread, which was initially 3%, will become much smaller and as a result will earn less. That's why we gradually close the position with limit orders, both on Gate and on MEXC. But the situation is a bit better on Gate. Here there are already some larger orders. There's actually one buyer here who can immediately take 5,000 tokens, so we can sell all our coins to him at once. I also noticed something interesting. Someone else was arbitraging this token too, and they were also selling 100 tokens at a time along with me. This actually makes things more complicated, since there are other arbitrageurs who also want to take the profit. But it doesn't matter, I set my price just a little bit lower. I started buying the DEVVE token again on MEXC to close my short position. On Gate.io, I also started gradually selling 100 DEVVE tokens at a time into the order book. Using limit orders, it's important to use limit orders, but because of a sudden price change, the price dropped sharply, my limit order didn't go through, so now we'll have to look for a new buyer to take our DEVVE tokens. The main thing here is not to rush and to sell your position gradually, little by little. We sold 100 tokens on Gate, and then went back to MEXC and also sold 100 tokens there, or rather bought, since we're shorting. A big buyer appeared in the order book, so I decided to sell all the tokens at 0.639 right away. So I select this price with a limit order, choose sell all and sell everything. And the buyer who was in the order book bought all our tokens. Perfect. We closed the position on Gate. Now we continue closing the position on MEXC. We're also closing out gradually 100 at a time, because if you look at the order book, there are only small orders here. You see 87 coins, 248, 129. So if I just sell at market price, all these orders will be taken and my position will close at a disadvantage. That's why we're gradually closing our short position on MEXC. The main thing here is not to rush and to keep an eye on the order book and liquidity, because if the price suddenly spikes, we won't be able to close the position properly at all. That's why we're closing out with limit orders. We still have about 1,200 or now 1,100 tokens left to sell. I'm gradually selling them in batches of 100 tokens each with limit orders. Of course, if you have a large position and you've entered a token that isn't very liquid, it'll take even longer to sell it off. It took me about 5 minutes to sell my position. Yes, it takes a while, but patience pays off, that's it. We're left with the final 100 tokens. we sell them and successfully close our futures position on MEXC. So we've closed on Gate and we've closed on MEXC. Now let's calculate how much profit we made from this round. We also received a bit more funding. So if the funding had been higher, we could have made even more just from the funding. Since we were shorting, and because a lot of people are going long on the token, the funding is positive, so long traders pay short traders. Let's sum up all the calculations. The total deposit I used for this trade was about $4,000. The spread on the trade was 2.87, so about 3%. Now let's calculate how much spread we managed to capture in the end and how much money we made overall. After doing the calculations, we see that the trade brought in $36.87. That's actually pretty good. That's a spread of about 1%, or to be precise, 0.92. For those who don't know, the spread is the difference between the spot and futures prices, or between tokens on one exchange and another. In other words, the spread is the price difference. And as we saw in this case, in this example, there were some nuances involved. That is, we weren't able to close the position right away. We had to close it gradually using limit orders. We were lucky on Gator was a big buyer there, so we sold all our tokens to him at once. But on MEXC, we had to close the position gradually, 100 tokens at a time. So always pay attention to the order book and never sell at market price, because you could pump the price up a lot, and as a result, all the profit you waited an hour for could just be wiped out. That's why it's important to watch the order book and see if there are buyers for the given token. These kinds of trades aren't huge multipliers, but they provide stable income with minimal risk. Use Arbitrage Scanner to look for such opportunities and consistently earn yourself 1 to 2% on your deposit. Sometimes the trades yield even more. As you saw, due to market volatility, the trade initially had about a 3% spread, but in the end it closed at 1%. Still, a profit of $37 in an hour is an excellent result. So make use of the Arbitrage Scanner. But if you want more of these trade breakdowns, let me know in the comment. I'd be interested to read your thoughts. Give this video a like and share it with your friends. Check out our previous videos on the channel. We have a lot of useful content about crypto arbitrage. If you're interested in this topic, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next videos. Good luck to everyone. Bye everyone.